Chapter 3. With each step he took, Arrow silently grew closer to the staircase made from carefully laid bricks of clay which built the foundation of the capital of Stragglethorn Isle. A guide pointed the way up the lengthy climb, and the elf nodded his appreciation. Pushing forward, he scanned his surroundings, studying the ancient carving that depicted many prehistoric beasts. On his arrival alone, he'd seen many, some large, triple-horned, others nimble and winged. They littered the city. These carvings presented to him with these creatures, and many he'd yet to see, a large sail on one's back, and another with clearly powerful jaws. However, one in particular stood out to him, large, sharp teeth, and a razor-like tail. He grasped his stomach, feeling as if he was about to hurl. Reluctantly, he pushed forward, pausing at the top of the staircase. He felt several eyes land on him and linger. They were more alert the closer he got to the king. One wrong move, and he'd be sure to earn a spear through the heart. It was intimidating. It made him think about every step, every breath, every little muscle twitch. Fear, perhaps, but Arrow feared nothing. Not for a long time. A breath escaped him as he finally reached the king, kneeling down before him, slowly, lowering his head in his position. His canine companions sat on either side, dipping their heads as well. Surprisingly, for a couple of dogs, they knew when to behave, watch, and do as expected of them. Liliana trained them well.
The hero himself stepping foot onto my pavement. I say it be an honor. But your work's known in my domain, and you're not respected.
The king spoke, accent heavy, making himself clear on how the people saw Arrow. No wonder he could already feel knives.
Your Highness, I did not come here for your head. You asked for my help, and that is what I'm here for.
He lifted his head to meet the king's gaze, his tone and expression serious as ever. Silence echoed through the winds as the king didn't respond, only stared at Arrow blankly. Truth. Reaching out to his servant, the boy handed him a scroll that in turn was tossed to Arrow.
You be meeting my champion at the South Port. He tell you about it.
Unraveling the scroll, Arrow took a glance about the map he'd been given before nodding his farewell to the king, swiftly heading back down the stairs. The port he spoke of wasn't too far, but far enough to need a mount. Speaking her name, Nami materialized in front of him, ready to be of service. Letting her see the map for a moment, the creature nodded, showing that she understood the assignment. Travel time was cut in half utilizing the celestial being. Having arrived at the port, it was only seconds before he saw it. Such a familiar creature, one he awaited meeting again after so long, and its dear rider. Nami's paw steps were silent as ever in approaching the two. Oh, how exciting this was for Arrow. Finally, he could avenge his people.
You must be the champion your king speaks so highly of,
Arrow stated, watching as the troll turned around to meet him. The shock was evident. Mutual recognition. Priceless.
Highly. No, you misunderstand him, assassin. Not that your thought matters here.
This one. His accent was not as heavy as the rest. Those he'd spoke to clearly pronounced things differently. But he only had the hint of accent, speaking more like a human than the other trolls.
Charming! Are you going to give me directions, or am I following blindly behind someone who holds less honor than I?
Arrow hissed at him, trying to get him to snap and admit it.
You know nothing of me, elf.
The response was strangely calm, as if this sort of harassment occurred on the daily, and he merely learned how to shut it down and not let the perpetrator in. Come, he simply stated, continuing down the path that led into the dense jungle. Pausing, the elf held his ground, waiting for an explanation.
Before I'm led to my death, where is it you're taking me?
Not to your death. He could hear the undertone of a chuckle, as if he found Arrow's caution funny. Frankly, it annoyed him. Narrowing his eyes, he waved his companions along, following after the male and his beast, who continued ahead.
An elf like you might like this place. You will bathe for spiritual cleansing.
Spiritual cleansing has nothing to do with our task. Arrow quickly snapped back at him. He didn't want to waste time, clearly. He only wanted to get his job done. Beyond the dock is your death. Should you not cleanse on this sacred land, they can smell the burdens you bring from other lands. They know you are not one of us. Without cleansing, you're an intruder who has come to harm the island. He began to explain to the elf, reasoning with him on why he couldn't skip this step. Of course, explaining wasn't all that easy, especially with Arrow. He was too stubborn. And, will your empire imprison me? Snarky. A sigh escaped him. Steering off the path, he reached out, pushing the greenery to the side. They will exterminate you. Tilting his head, he hesitantly pushed forward, following the troll, looking beyond the path at what was being shown to him. His eyes widened. He'd seen so much, but this was beyond what he could ever believe. Every single creature depicted back at the temple was present, living in total harmony. He believed the fewer, but to see an entire community of them, all of them, alive, it was unbelievable. A gift of a sight. Only Stragglethorn and Deer have these creatures. We keep them secret. However, recently word got out to the humans. The troll continued on, down the path, Arrow hesitantly following behind as if he were a curious child being told a story. Come in here to seek it for themselves. They're trying to conquer our home, poaching our beloved creatures and mining out all of our resources. This is what we've called you here for. I understand the concern, but what of it? Don't they figure the humans are intruders and exterminate them? Arrow asked, a reasonable question given the information prior to the learning of the troll's predicament, to which he only heard another sigh escape the man in front of him. Somehow they don't notice. We take it they figured out that cleansing is the key. There are many pools on the island. The humans have situated themselves near one on the northwest side. There must be a traitor. I would have never figured that out given 100 years on this island, and they figured it out in 2 months. Yeah, no. Groaning, Arrow swiveled his head around. The thought stressed him. If he managed to remove the humans, only more would arrive. He had to figure out who the source of the problem was. The traitor himself. All the while, they've been talking, and Arrow was trying to conjure up a plan. They'd finally come to the pool where the elf needed to bathe. Funny, it only took moments of the elf's relaxation for it to turn sour. If only he'd kept his mouth shut. Know this. Humans are smart. You've seen the work of one firsthand. And he still persists. The topic finally arose. The elf had immediately turned around to find himself making direct eye contact with the troll. The work of one. He had help, if you recall. Getting along? Only a moment. Now that is out the window. The confrontation neither of them wanted deep down was arising. You ought to understand. It was my family, my people, or your home. You would have done the same. He pleaded with him with perfect reasoning, but Arrow didn't think so. You corrupted an entire race, doomed them to his hand. The troll raised his head, his stance strong. You survived, didn't you? I am but one elf. That does not save a race. He sneered. I attacked you directly, left you to die. If you survived, the people you led did too. Only those words seemed to get through to him. He made sure Levi and the other deer rescued and left with survivors. Only thing he didn't know is if they were surviving up to this point, rebuilding with what they had left, and of course, where they could have settled. He'd never know. Given a sigh, Arrow got up to prepare himself and leave. Fang followed him, far from the pool, in complete silence.